I just heard the landscapers pull up. I gotta beat them to this voiceover. What's up, friends? It's Sam from DIY Huntress, and today I'm going to transform this pile of lumber into a floating entertainment stand, hopefully. Let's get started. I partnered up with my friends at Rockler to help make this project come to life. So if you are new to my channel, hello, welcome. But if you are not new to my channel, then you have probably been following along on this bedroom makeover series thing that I've been doing for my parents on my channel. Now, spoiler alert, if you've seen the reveal of the entire bedroom, you have already seen what this project looks like, but I decided to break down this project into its own video because it's actually kind of awesome and also pretty easy to make, and it definitely deserved its own little tutorial. Now, my parents have their bedroom and their TV hanging on the wall, and there were like wires everywhere, so I decided to make a floating entertainment unit to kind of wrangle everything, make it look super neat, and also provide space for them to still put things underneath it or walk around it without it being totally intrusive. So that being said, to get started, I decided to use red oak for this project. I don't typically use red oak for projects just because I don't love the look of it, but in terms of how I was finishing this to match the rest of the furniture, it just made sense to use this lumber. So I cut the lumber into several pieces. I made 2 side pieces, a top and a bottom, and some dividers to just create the box. I also decided to use pocket hole joinery for a couple of different reasons. One, because you're not even going to see the pocket holes once this thing is assembled, and also because pocket holes are a really quick way to get a project done but still have a lot of strength so that the project doesn't fall apart. And a little trick I like to use when clamping up and gluing up boxes and adding pocket holes is that I like to clamp a right angle guide to the actual box itself while drilling in everything. It just keeps everything super straight, and then I know that my entire box in the building is square and it's perfect. So after attaching those side pieces, it was time to attach the dividers, and to do this, I actually cut out a couple of spacers, which are going to be used as my drawer fronts later in order to space out exactly where I wanted these dividers to be, and also to make sure that I had enough material to use for the drawer fronts. I then attached these divider pieces the same exact way that I attached those end pieces, and I also made sure to flip those pocket holes on the inside so that all of the pocket holes will be hidden inside of the drawer box, which means that you will not see them when you are looking directly at the entertainment unit. I then moved on to attaching the top portion of the cabinet the same exact way as all of the rest of the pieces. I say this all the time, but cabinets can seem very intimidating to make, but if you look at it as just building a giant box with different dividers to put other boxes inside of, it is definitely a lot less intimidating to make, which is why a project like this is really awesome for anybody who's beginning and trying to make some furniture for the first time. Now, as I mentioned earlier, this is a floating entertainment unit, which means that I had to make a couple of braces for the back of the unit, and these are going to be basically the things that I drill through and into the studs in the room to make this entire thing float. So to do this, I cut some thinner strips of the same red oak on my table saw and then drilled some pocket holes through them and then attached them to the back of the unit the same way that I attached the rest of the pieces. And the rest of this is actually going to be left open in the back because it makes life so much easier for installing all of the hardware later. At this point, I also decided that I wanted to add a roundover to the entire unit, so I used my router to do this. This is totally optional, but for me, it just added this really nice, classy looking element to the entire build, and I'm so glad that I did it. I then finish sanded the entire piece and then stained it using a custom stain to match my parents' new furniture in their bedroom. In full disclosure, I was just going to leave this unit the way it was, and then after it was hanging for a little bit, I did decide to add drawers and some storage to it for my parents for their bedroom to just kind of make up for a little bit of a lack of storage for small things. So in the next scene, you're going to see me installing this unit the way it is, but I did end up taking it off the wall after I finished the bedroom and then created custom drawers for it at some point. And scene. So here we are installing the TV back on the wall. My brother helped me do this portion. I had also installed a cable management system through the wall here as well that I had ordered online. I will link that in my materials list along with everything else that I use for this project. But the reason I'm showing you all of this is because, as you can see, I was able to install this floating entertainment unit directly into the studs using those brackets in the back that I had made. And because I did this solo, I also used a stool to prop up the entire build while I was doing it. But again, very shortly after having that thing kind of hanging on the wall for a while, I did decide to add some storage drawers, so here we go. I decided to make the drawers for this build out of leftover plywood that I had in my workshop. So to start, I cut the plywood down to basically the depth of what I wanted my drawer to be, and then I used my miter saw in order to cut them all to their final sizes for the drawer box itself. I then brought all of these drawer box pieces back on over to my table saw and cut some grooves into them, and this is where the 1/4-inch plywood will fit for the bottom of the drawer. And in keeping with this theme of pocket hole joinery, I then drilled pocket holes into the front and back of the drawer boxes because these will be totally hidden. You won't even know they exist once the drawer box is assembled. And speaking of drawer box assembly, here we go. So I assembled these drawers the same exact way that I assembled the floating cabinet. It's just another set of boxes. So I used glue and pocket hole screws, and I made sure to assemble the sides on the outside of the front and back because this will hide all of the pocket holes as well as hide any of the exposed grooves behind the drawer box and also behind the actual unit itself. Now for this build, I really wanted to try to use undermount drawer slides, so I did pick up a set of Bloom undermount drawer slides from Rockler, which meant that I had to take a couple of extra steps to install them the proper way. Huge shout out to Jason Bent and John Peters because they have the best tutorials for how to install these types of drawer slides, and checking out their channels made installing these things an absolute breeze. They do require a couple of extra steps that are not required when installing side-mounted drawer slides. However, they work so beautifully and they are totally concealed, and they made such a huge difference for this entire build. Luckily, Rockler also makes an undermount drawer slide jig that goes perfectly with the Bloom drawer slides, so I was able to use that jig in order to install them perfectly, literally the first time, and I've never used these before. Essentially, once that drawer box was completely built, the jig did the rest of the work for me. I just followed the directions and drilled the openings where they needed to go using the jig. The measurements were absolutely perfect, and then I was able to install everything really seamlessly because all of the holes were pre-drilled in the exact place for me. I wish every build was that easy. The other thing that's really cool actually about this whole jig kit is that it does come with a jig for the drawer slides themselves, which bumps up to the build that you're working on so that you're able to align the drawer slides exactly where they need to go on the drawer box, but also inside the cabinet as well. I was also able to use the drawer front that I was using for this build to measure exactly where this jig needed to go, and then all of the spacing was absolutely perfect for when I had to pop that drawer in later. Okay, moment of truth. I did it. Okay, now I see the other one fits. Legitimately so stoked because that was my first time installing undermount drawer slides and they both fit perfectly on the first try, and I really was so excited because it made my life so easy to have that part of the build just go so smoothly. Okay, so now that that part of the build was done, it was time to focus on the drawer fronts, and I decided to cut some openings for drawer handles into the same exact lumber that I used for the rest of the build. The reason that I did this is that I didn't want anyone to check a hip on a doorknob or a drawer pull. I just wanted it to be seamless and integrated, and that way nothing will get snagged or injured when you walk past this thing while it's floating on the wall. There really wasn't that much method to my madness here. I kind of just cut out a shape that I liked and then cleaned it up using my router and a flush trim bit, and then once I had something I was happy with, I used this drawer front as a template for the next drawer front, and then I had 2 identical drawer fronts for this build. I also decided to give these drawer fronts the same round over that I gave to the rest of the build just to make them match. And I also gave them the same exact coat of custom stain to match the rest of the build as well as the rest of the furniture in the entire room. I also finished the entire build in a coat of furniture butter as well to make it a little more durable and to give it this beautiful long-lasting matte finish. I've linked the exact finish that I used for this project in my materials list. And once that had dried, it was time to install the drawer front to the actual drawer box. And this was made very easy because that opening that I cut for the handle was a great spot for me to slip a clamp into and then clamp the drawer front to the actual drawer box, yank it all out, and then screw it in from the backside of the drawer box. And shout out to Brad from Fix This Build That for introducing me to the card trick to make sure that my spacing was perfect. Also, forgot to mention other cool thing about these drawer slides is there's a little lever on the bottom of them, so it was really easy for me to remove the drawer box from the slides and then place it back into place afterwards. Honestly, like a click and then that was it. But once those drawers were fully installed, the last thing that I wanted to do was just cut out a little notch in the entertainment unit for some cable management. This was something that definitely needed to be done because the cable box as well as some other electronics will be hanging out in that center shelf. I then installed the entertainment center back on the wall, this time with its beautiful drawers, and began to do some cable management in the room using some of those paintable cable hider strip things. I'm sure that's not the technical term, but that's what I used, and I linked them in my materials list so that you can find them based on their technical term and not what I just called them. I love making spaces come to life, but honestly, my favorite part of any of that is being able to make custom furniture. Building custom furniture just makes me so happy, and this is a piece that I am definitely pretty proud of. This entire room did a complete 180, so if you haven't seen the full before and after, as well as the full makeover, definitely go hop on over to my channel and check that out from start to finish. But honestly, I do feel like this little entertainment center seriously brought this room together. My mom continually talks about how she feels like she's sleeping in a hotel room every night, and to me, that's just like the biggest compliment. I really hope that you all loved this project as much as we did, and if so, please make sure to subscribe to my channel and click that notification bell because there is so much happening right now and so many cool things that are on the deck for this channel. I cannot wait to share them all with you. And whether you are a beginner woodworker or an intermediate woodworker, even an advanced woodworker, I do hope that this is a project that you feel like you can tackle after seeing it done on my channel. But to wrap things up here, as always, friends, thank you so much for checking out my video and supporting what I do. I cannot wait to share even more projects with you in the very near future. But until then, friends, hope everyone is well and happy DIYing.